I would like to bring the meeting, the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Wayne Westland to order on Monday, October 17th, 2016 at 7 o'clock. Thank you for attending. It shows your interest in public education, and we really appreciate you being here. So at this time, we have three students from Edison Elementary School to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. So would Taylor Rancifer? Rouncifer, I'm sorry. Kayla Samuel and Alea Williams, please come forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, students. Please stand where you are. And I would like to read your biographies. So far, we have my name is Taylor Rossifer, and I'm in the third grade at Edison Elementary School. My teacher's name is Miss Mayo. My favorite subjects in school are math, science, and English. And I enjoy tennis and jumping on the trampoline. My favorite things to eat is fruit, vegetables, and pizza. When I grow up, I want to be a tutor so I can help kids. And Taylor, who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my mom, dad, sister, and my grandpa and grandma.
Can you please stand? Thank you. And is your principal here today? Oh, thank you. Next, hi, my name is Kaylee Samuel, and I'm a third grader at Edison Elementary School. My teacher's name is Miss Ferris. My favorite subjects in school are math, art, and writing. I like to do gymnastics and play soccer. My favorite thing to eat is my mom's homemade chicken. And when I grow up, I would like to be a makeup artist or a singer. And Miss Kaylee, is your parents in the room today? Yeah. Can they please stand up? Thank you. And we also have Alea Williams. So hi, my name is Alea Williams. I'm a third grader at Edison Elementary School, and my teacher's name is Miss Gorski. My favorite subject in school is reading. I like to play softball and do gymnastics. My favorite foods are pizza and chicken nuggets. And when I grow up, I would like to be a singer, a gymnastics teacher. And are your parents in the room today?
Yes.
Can they please stand? Thank you. So, Mrs. Medill will present each student with a certificate on the behalf of the Board of Education for leading the Pledge of Allegiance.
On behalf of all of these people that are sitting behind you, I would like to present each of you a certificate suitable for framing, or it will fit nicely in a memory book that mom and grandma and everybody else can look at as you get older. And it basically says that we are so glad that you came today and did the pledge, showing us your great expertise in doing the Pledge of Allegiance, which isn't always easy for everybody. And I would like to present, first of all, this to Alea Williams. Thank you so much. Taylor Rouncifer, I would like to present that to you. Thank you. And to Kaylee Samuel. Thank you so much. Now, if you will turn your certificates around, so not you, just the certificates, okay? So that everybody can see your certificates. Everybody's wanting to take your picture for sure. And see this lady coming towards us? She's going to also want to take your picture. So I'm going to step out so moms and dads and grandmas and aunts and uncles and everybody else can take your picture first.
Thank you, ladies. So, you're more than welcome to stay for the meeting, but you're also welcome to leave at this time if you like to, because I know that you have homework and things like that. But we really appreciate you coming in and sharing your students with us. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 151.17, roll call of attendance. Ms. Hines.
Mr. Griffin,
Present.
Mr. Buckaloo,
Present.
Ms. Hines, I'm present. Ms. Madison,
She's excused.
Ms. Madell,
I'm here.
and Ms. Walker.
I'm present. So let the record reflect that we have 5 in attendance and 2 excused. At this time, I would like to bring to the board to ask for a motion to amend the agenda as follows, to add the item 158.17.1, superintendent contract, to the agenda. Moved by Mrs. Madell,
Support.
supported by Mr. Griffin. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Madell,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo,
Yes.
Dr. Weaver is excused. Oh. Ms. Hines, me, yes. And Ms. Walker,
Yes.
5-2.
Okay.
I'm
5-0.
5-0. Sorry.
What number was that?
It's going to be item number 158.17.1. It'll come up under the evaluation tool part.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to item number 152.17, presentations. Dr. Hamala.
Yes, thank you very much. We have 2 presentations. I'm going to start off with Mr. Larson Scheidler, and he will share an award.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Harmala. I'm just going to read from the press release because I think it sums up what a CAFR does. By preparing and presenting a CAFR, a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, Wayne Westland Community Schools validated the credibility of their school system's operations, measured the integrity and technical competence of the business staff, assisted in strengthening their presentations for bond issue statements, and provide professional recognition. This is the 17th year in a row that the district has completed and received an award from GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, and from the Association of School Business Officials, ASBO. The district is one of only 5 school district is one of only 5 in the state of Michigan that receives the GFOA certification, and one of only 22 in the state of Michigan that received the ASBO award. I want to give a special note and thanks to Dave Kallmeyer and Sue Rawson from the finance department. They work with the auditor. They collect a lot of information, able to prepare reports, and then also I want to thank everybody in the district, because without good internal controls and everybody working under those controls, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then also Kelly Bowl is going to share a presentation on our new district website.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Harmala. And I'm actually going to turn it right over to Jenny Johnson. Her and her team did all the work along with the website committee, so we'll let her have the pride in showing it to you.
Good evening, everyone. As you can see from the screens around the room, we have a new website. It's taken a little bit of time. The communications department first started with the survey for the community. We formed a website committee. And once we compiled that data and got all of that information, we entered into a contract with Foxbrite. Foxbrite designed our website for us. You can see it looks a little bit different. We've updated the design. We've kind of changed around the organization of it, but all of our content is there. This is our current homepage right here. And as Mallory scrolls down, you can see some of the features that we left that are still central are our registration portal. That's where our new families can go. Also, our popular Click It and Fix It app. which formerly was on our mobile app, but now we've got it front and center right on our homepage. And another feature that I think especially the board members are gonna like is our new calendar. We've got every school and our board events all listed on the calendar. You can view it a couple different ways. You can view the large format of the calendar, or you can view it as a grid. You can also decide which schools you want to view, or again, for board members, you can view every event happening in the district on a particular day. Then you can also subscribe to the iCal feed, so the events can pop up either in your Google Calendar, your iPhone, or your Android phone. So basically, you can take everything that's happening in the district in the palm of your hands and have it with you at all times. That was one of the biggest things that we heard from people that was going to be the most beneficial and the most useful to them. Another tool that we heard about was searchable staff directory. We have a lot of employees in the district. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find them. So under our district tab, you click on the district directory, and right now I think Mallory is searching for me. I'm not the only Johnson in the district. But in a couple seconds, she found me. The envelope next to my name pops up a box. You can fill in your information, you can send me a message, and it'll come right through to me. So you don't have to remember email addresses, or are we WWCS, are we WWCSD? All you have to do is search for our name. Another feature of our website is that when we switched it over, and you guys, probably the board members have heard of this, maybe some of you too, is ADA compliance. That means that we have to make sure that our website is accessible to people with visual and hearing impairments. So the way that the website, can you go to the Board of Education page, Mallory? Or no, we were going to show the YouTube. Okay. This is a feature we like. All of our videos have to have closed captioning or transcripts accompanied by them. YouTube has a closed captioning feature. So this is last month's board meeting. And you click on the CC button in the bottom. And I know you have to have really good eyesight to be able to read it. Maybe some of you sitting up front can read it. But it tells you everything. I think this is Mrs. Medell speaking.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So all of our videos will now have closed captioning ability on them. And you don't have to watch it, but it's there. It's useful if you do want to. So now we'll go to the Board of Education page. Show you guys what your fancy new page looks like. So ADA compliance is all about the font and the arrangement and the color of the text. It has to be made so that the screen readers can read it, so that if somebody's having a hard time visually, they can still understand what's on the website. And you see next to your names, you have the little envelopes too. Really easy for people to email you, to find you, to contact you, and to email you. And then if you scroll down your page a little bit, all of your other information. Like I said, the information looks different. We've gotten a few phone calls, people saying, oh no, you don't have this on the website. And we've said, yes we do, it's just in a new spot. So last tip I'm gonna give you, if you get stuck and you can't find something, if you go all the way up to the top, we do have a search button. And frankly, that's what I've been using a lot lately, because I haven't memorized where everything is either. So if there's anything that you want to find, you can just type it in there. Why don't you type Edison? I think the Edison kids were here doing the pledge. And there you go. It gives you a list of different things that you can find. I hope everyone here takes some time, look through our pages, look through our pictures. We're trying to get a lot of pictures on it. We're working on getting more videos on it. Everything takes a little bit of time, but we think it's more organized, we think it's more user-friendly, and we think it's really going to be not only a marketing tool, but something that our students, staff, and parents really are going to be able to use easily. Does anybody have any questions?
Nice, thank you.
When somebody enters something for their school on a particular date, will it also show on the district calendar?
It will show, if you choose it, you can choose what you want. So you can choose to just see the district calendar. Can you go back to the homepage, please, Mallory? It is up to the user to decide what they want to view. And sometimes when you check all, you're going to see on some dates, for example, I'm going to tell you on Halloween, you're going to see a lot of Halloween parties, a lot of Halloween parades. I think every elementary school has them listed, as you can see.
It's a half a day of school, too.
And it's a half a day of school. We don't have the high school sports on here because it just made it too cluttered. So for high school sports, you do still have to go to their athletic page. But our middle school sports are on here because the middle school sports include them in their regular monthly calendar.
All right, so all I have to do is go up to the bar there where it says to select.
Yeah.
And check all,
Check
as
all.
opposed to what I did yesterday, was going through each calendar again.
No, check all so you can see, because you like to see by the week, right? What's happening?
I love it.
You check all and then you just look at that week. Do you have a smartphone?
I have a droid.
Okay. We can help you subscribe. So if you want that information on your phone, so that you always have it with you.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Anybody else?
I don't have any questions, but I will.
Go ahead.
As someone who isn't computer literate as well as many people of the young kids today, but one of the things that I've always wanted since I've been on the board recently, and I've talked about it, was let's improve our ability to communicate with the public and through our public relations. And this is the biggest of all, because I think over the time, we're going to have tremendous feedback where people don't have to call on a phone. The phones are busy. They're going to learn how to use this and become much more confident with our school system about what they need to know, the sports and so forth. So I'm really, really happy that this is one of the components that we've developed, but I don't know if you're going to talk about other things too, but reading it all, it's much, much, much improved. And I want to say thank you as a board member on behalf of the public.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So now we're going to move on to item number 153.17, citizen comments, agenda items only. Ms. Hines, do we have anyone who wants to speak on the agenda only? Okay, see it now. Moving on to item number 154.17, consent agenda. At this time, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Madell. Support. Supported by Ms. Hines. And just so you know, the consent agenda is just everything, activities, donations, things like that in the district. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Madell?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes?
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
We have a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 155.17, review and approval of human resource items. Mrs. Fole.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Harmala, and members of our listening audience. Tonight I had the pleasure of recommending for your approval 3 placements. I will start with the placement of Mr. Charles Hallman to the position of Senior Executive Director of Special Education Department. Charlie started his employment with the district in 1993 as a teacher. He served as a special education teacher, a general education teacher, a resource room teacher, a transition coordinator, and then moved to the director of high school special education in 2008. Charlie holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Michigan State University, a Master of Arts from Marygrove College, and he's currently enrolled in a Master of Education program at Grand Valley State. Additionally, Charlie has a professional education certificate in elementary education with an endorsement in cognitive impairment. He also has full approval from MDE as a supervisor of special education, and as he completes his program, will receive full approval for the director of special education. I mentioned Charlie's also a John Glenn alumni, and I bring that up because our second candidate tonight, Mr. Eric Chambers, also happens to be a John Glenn graduate. He was first employed by the district in 2007 as a coach at John Glenn High School. Eric then started his teaching career in the Taylor School District and moved on to the Riverview Community School District, where he has been working as a high school business and technology teacher. Eric is being recommended for the athletic director position at John Glenn High School. Eric has a Bachelor of Business Education from Eastern Michigan University and is working on his Master of Arts in Educational Leadership at EMU. Eric holds a provisional teaching certificate in business management, marketing, and technology, and also an interim occupational certificate in business administration, management, and operations. And my third recommendation for your approval tonight is the placement of Miss Mary Ernat to the position of principal at Roosevelt McGrath Elementary School. Mary's been teaching in the Wayne Westland Community Schools since 1998 and has served as an elementary teacher at Schweitzer, an ELA and social studies teacher at Stevenson Middle School, and most recently as an intervention specialist at Adams Upper Elementary School. Mary holds a Bachelor of Science from the Eastern Michigan University, a Master of Arts from the University of Michigan Dearborn. Mary also has a professional education certificate in elementary education with an endorsement in both science and social studies.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take a motion to accept their recommendations
So
of Human
moved, Madam.
Resources.
So moved, Madam.
Moved by Mr. Griffin. Supported by Mrs. Madell. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Hines, yes. Ms. Medill?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
And Ms. Walker?
I vote yes as well.
We have a 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I'd also like to invite the approved candidates up to say a little something. Mr. Hallman?
Good evening. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the Board of Education for their support, and I can't express how important it is to me to be able to give back to the school district that has given me and my family oh so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I too would like to thank you for the opportunity. As Ms. Bull pointed out, I am a graduate of this district, and I look forward to making positive change and impact on the students and staff that I have the opportunity to work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Ernat, and I'm thrilled to be serving Wayne Westland Schools in this capacity as principal at Roosevelt McGrath. I've been there for a week now, and the staff and students have just been awesome. It's great to be back in a K-4 building. I have had the pleasure of being a teacher, intervention specialist, as well as I'm also a graduate of John Glenn High School and been here K-12, so go Rockets. I have my family with me. I have my son and my sister and my niece who are very supportive and couldn't do it without them, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations on your new positions. Moving on to item number 156.17, review and approval of business services and finance items. Mr. Larson Scheidler.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Tonight, we have Plant Moran with us, the audit, to present the audit from the 15-16 school year. We have Jeff Higgins and Kirsten Phillips. What they'll do is they will go over the audit process and do a presentation, and if you have any questions, please ask.
Well, thank you and good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to present to the board tonight the financial results for the year ended June 30th, 2016. There's, excuse me, 3 documents that you receive with the board packets that represent the results of the audit process. There's the comprehensive annual financial report, which represents the district's audited financial statements. There's the federal awards supplemental information. This represents our audit of the federal programs administered by the school district. And then finally, the report to the Board of Education. This report provides information on the audit process and results and is intended to provide some insight into the audit process itself. Now, as the district's auditors, it's our responsibility to express an opinion on the district's financial statements based on our audit, which is conducted in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, and also the standards applicable to financial audits contained in government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. And I'm very happy to report here tonight that based on our tests and procedures, we've rendered an unmodified or a clean opinion on the district's financial statements. This represents the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can provide on a set of financial statements. And certainly I'd be remiss if we didn't also take this opportunity to congratulate the district on the 2 awards that were discussed earlier this evening, the GFOA Award and the ASBO Award. Again, as was mentioned, only a handful of districts across the state receive these awards, and we certainly commend the district for its commitment to transparent financial reporting. And in that light, we're here to present some of the highlights of the financial results of this past fiscal year, and for that, I will turn it over to Kirsten.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for inviting us here tonight. And again, a special thanks to the business office with Dave and Jim and Sue for all of their hard work during the audit. I will start the presentation off and go to the first slide. Oh. There we go. And so we will focus our presentation on these first couple slides on the general fund, which is the district's primary operating fund, as it represents the majority of the governmental fund's financial statement activity. So starting with the general fund balance sheet, as we have up on the screen, assets as of June 30th, 2016 are at approximately $24.7 million. And these primarily consist of approximately $6.8 million in cash and cash equivalents, approximately $17.5 million of receivables, with the majority of these receivables relating to July and August state aid. Further, as we walk down the balance sheet, general fund liabilities are at approximately $19 million as of June 30th, and these primarily consist of payroll-related items. The fund balance for the general fund is made up of the following categories. Approximately $352,000 represents non-spendable fund balance related to prepaid assets and inventory. Approximately $723,000 is assigned fund balance, and approximately $4.6 million is unassigned fund balance, which is the remaining amount that's left over for normal operations of the district. As we move down, there we go, to the next slide. This will walk us through the statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, or essentially the fund level income statement for the district. And again, we'll be focusing on the general fund. For fiscal year 2015-16, the general fund had revenue of approximately $103.1 million and expenditures of approximately $101.3 million. Overall, the net change of the general fund was an increase of approximately $2.3 million from $3.4 million at July 1st, 2015 to the $5.7 million fund balance as of June 30th, 2016. So moving to the next slide. This next slide shows that budget to actual for the general fund ended up being under budget on total revenues and expenditures, and slightly over on other financing sources, which relate to the transfers between funds. However, overall, the net difference of $422,433 represents only 0.4% of total expenditures. So this next slide here breaks out general fund total revenue of $103.1 million, as I had mentioned earlier. The graph attempts to show that 83% represents the state foundation allowance, while the remaining 17% is other state and local revenue. Amounts are consistent with the prior year, and overall the foundation allowance of the majority, the 83%, is primarily based on a formula of per pupil foundation, and for the district it's 7,391 multiplied by the blended pupil count for the district of 11,616. And this next slide now, I just had talked about the revenue. This is focusing back on the expenditures of the general fund. This, again, as previously mentioned, is the $101.3 million in 2015-16 fiscal year. And the purpose of this graph is to, again, just break it down further to show in more detail how the amount can be broken up into the various categories, including salaries and wages at 52%, fringe benefits at 36%, and the remainder consisting of purchase services and supplies, materials, and other, each at 6%. Again, these are very consistent with last year, and you can see the majority here is salaries, wage, and fringe, which represents the majority of the fund balance, or general fund expenditures. Now I'll pass it off to Jeff.
We've talked about the results for the year. We wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the school district's fund balance and how that relates to the current financial climate the school districts within Michigan and Wayne Westland itself are operating in. So just a quick recap. So the highlight is the fund balance at June 30th, 2016 in the general fund, as we just talked about, was about $5.7 million. So fund balance represents the accumulated results of all the past year's general fund operations. It's used to provide working capital and help the district meet its cash flow needs, and helps provide for dealing with future uncertainties. It's essentially the district's savings, if you will. And there's a number of uncertainties that school districts across the state of Michigan have to deal with. The first one we highlight on here is a highly uncertain funding from year to year. As we saw in the graph a minute ago, the vast majority of the district's funding is through the foundation allowance. So it essentially means that the school district's funding is both subject for its level and its source of funding from Lansing. It's based on the political forces that might be in play in any given year, and it's also based on the enrollment. So two things that the district has very little control over, controls the vast majority of its funding for the year. Secondly, fund balance helps you address unforeseen expenditures, to the extent that there might be things that weren't planned for that occur during the year. So if you have a harsh winter, for example, so utility costs go up, or if there's any sort of unforeseen maintenance. So fund balance helps you work through those unforeseen circumstances and helps you address those in a more proactive manner. Elongated state aid payments. We talked about a moment ago in the general fund balance sheet, the state aid payments receivable from the state of Michigan. So as we saw, the vast majority of the funding comes from the state, and the state actually pays those payments in 11 installments. The first installment is October, and then they run through August. What that effectively means is the district actually receives over 18% of its funding after the end of its fiscal year end. So that puts significant cash flow burdens on the local districts to deal with that delayed payments, and fund balance helps districts deal with that cash flow delay. There's another situation with federal grants. Most federal grants are on a grant reimbursement basis, so you have to go through and expend the resources, and they're subsequently reimbursed for those federal grant programs. So again, a use of cash that fund balance helps districts manage on a cash flow basis. It essentially helps reduce the need for borrowing and operating funds, thereby reducing the need to incur interest expense. There's a lot of pressures on fund balance that we talked about, a lot of uncertainties, and so we wanted to take a look at some of the things that really do impact the fund balance for the district. The first one, as we talked about, is that per pupil foundation. Again, this is a number on a per pupil basis that drives the vast majority of the district's funding that is determined over in Lansing. And we have a 10-year history. You can see some of the significant impacts or significant changes that we've had in our funding. In 2010-2011, Wayne Westland was receiving $7,957 per pupil. In 2011 and 2012, there was some significant reductions in that funding. There was really two issues that resulted. There was a statewide across-the-board funding cut, and then secondly, there was some special Wayne Westland language that was removed from the State Aid Act, resulting in an over $700 per pupil funding reduction for 2011 and 2012. You can see that again, there was another reduction in 2012 and 2013, and there's been some slow increases since then, but even today, 2015, 2016, we're still well over $500 per pupil less than we were receiving back in 2010, 2011. So again, that's something that's out of the district's control, and districts have to try to manage their expenditures within this uncertain revenue environment that you exist in. Related to that is, again, enrollment. So similar to most districts across the state, the district's been experiencing a decline in enrollment. Statewide, K-12 enrollment in public schools is down roughly 10% in the last decade. And as you can see, Wayne Westland has experienced declines over that time period also. Between 2015 and 2016, there was a decline of roughly 263 students, or roughly 2% decrease. And again, when you're reimbursed on a per pupil basis, that represents direct dollars that are being taken out of your funding, as the district has to then manage that reduction in resources on the expenditure side. Those two items, as we talked about, put a great deal of strain on the district's financials. And as you can see here, this really brings to light some of the impact of those funding reductions. This is the history of the fund balance, again, that savings account, if you will, for the last several years. You can see back in 2007, the district had close to $16 million of fund balance. And even as recently as 2011, 2012, before the brunt of those funding cuts was really felt, you were still up around $12 million. And 13 is when really a lot of that impact was felt. You can see the fund balance decreased to about 5.2 million, and then we went down to roughly 3.7 and 3.4, and we've managed to add again another $2 million to fund balance this year to bring it up to $5.7 million as the end of 2016, and where the district is again budgeting its initial budget that was adopted back in June, expects to again add a little bit more to fund balance. So we've talked a lot about the pressures on fund balance, the history of the fund balance, but we wanted to provide some context in a kind of an overall picture of what does that fund balance level of $5.7 million really mean to the district. So typically when we're evaluating fund balance levels, we look at it as a percentage of the total budget. So for example, if we take your fund balance of roughly $5.7 million, we divide it by your general fund expenditures of roughly $101 million, that gives you a percentage of roughly 5.7%. You can see we have a history here for the last 5 years of what that ratio would be. Back in 2012, the district was about 10.84%. In the next line, we have the state average for that same ratio, excluding the City of Detroit schools. There's such a large district that on its own would skew the results. So to be a little bit more representative of the state as a whole, we do pull out Detroit. You can see as of 2012, we're a little bit above the state average. And then 2013, 14, 15, like we talked about, the impact of those funding cuts really started to be felt, where you can see there, for example, in 2015, which is the latest data that we have for the statewide numbers, the state average was about 10%, we were at about 3.1%. Now again, we have managed to increase it to 5.7 for 2016. This has taken on more focus in recent years, as back in 2015, the state adopted what's called the early warning legislation. So the state is using these types of ratios to go through and identify states that they feel could be displaying signs of fiscal distress. And the state's formula is a little bit different. They're using fund balance divided by general fund unrestricted revenue, but it's going to be relatively close to these numbers here. And so again, they're using it as an attempt to identify districts that could have a sign of fiscal distress. And if a district is considered to be showing signs of fiscal distress, the first step is there's additional reporting that needs to be done by those districts. And for Wayne Westland, for 2013, 2014, and 2015, it was under that state threshold. So there was additional budgetary assumptions that needed to be provided to the Department of Treasury, some additional expenditure info. The state is trying to determine that the district has a plan to basically build that fund balance back up and get it back over that 5% threshold that they're using. So again, it's certainly a positive sign that we've been able to rebuild it back to that 5.7%. And I know the board has a fund balance policy to maintain fund balance between 5 and 10%. And so we've been able to achieve that goal for 2016. So that summarizes the financial highlights for this last fiscal year end. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to address those this evening.
Any questions for the board? No, I think you did a good job of explaining it. It's always good to get a good rating.
You know, I would like to also thank Plant Moran. They came, continuing with, working with the unions, transparency. We asked them to come and meet with our unions. So they went over the same presentation at 3 o'clock with all of our union leadership, so.
Great, thank you. We appreciate that.
Sean, I do have a comment.
Okay.
You know, I've known Plant Moran a long time. We're going back about 30-something, 40 years between the school district and the city of Westland. And I've always been impressed with their integrity and how they deliver. They don't mince words. They tell you what the real status is. And I say that for one reason, so the public understands that this board has taken some tough issues on to cut the budget to get us a general fund equity that meets the state standard, so that we don't have somebody coming in here and trying to tell us how to run our school district. And I say that again because we have the lowest per pupil allowance of any 350 districts in Michigan. And yet, we're still with the general fund equity, and we're back to where at least we're in the 5% range. And that, it didn't come easy. You know, we asked this administration to examine every expenditure, every program, everything that they had, unless, if it's not for the benefit of the kids in the way that our strategic plan says, we need to make cuts, and we need to get back to 5%. So I'm impressed, and I'm happy that we've done that. And Plant Moran, they're the best, in my opinion. And that says that when they've been rated all these years as the best. And I'm going to say my other comments about our own staff at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody
So
else?
thank you, Jeff. And
At this time,
partner.
I'll take a motion to accept the recommendations of the business department to accept the audit report from Plant Moran.
So moved.
Okay, so I'll take that as moved by Mrs. Madell and supported by Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Hines, yes. Ms. Madell?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
5-0.
Moving on to item B, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just one last mention. I know Travis probably going to say this at the end, but we wouldn't be at the 5% fund balance without the concessions from our employees. So it's each and every employee in the district that took concessions back in, starting in 13-14, that has got us to where we're at. You know, so that was the largest part that enabled the district to weather that storm. So, okay, moving on to the next item that I have is a review of construction closeout projects. As construction-related projects are finished and all costs accounted for, we present the project and cost information to the board. Tonight you have summer of 2015 bid packages number 3 and number 4 in your agenda. Bid packet number 3 was primarily from food service funds. We replaced the pocket cafeteria tables in all of our K-4 buildings, painted the cafeterias with school mascot themed murals, and constructed an outside freezer at Adams Upper Elementary. Total budget was $800,000. Construction bids totaled $593,532. Indirect costs totaled $120,132.17 for a total project cost of $713,664.17. Overall project was $86,335.83 under budget. Moving on to bid packet number 4. This was from our sinking funds. The projects include the Wildwood roof and the Career Tech's roof and mechanicals. Total budget was $1,950,000. Construction bids totaled $1,240,065. Indirect costs totaled $210,364.80 for a total project cost of $1,450,429.80. The overall project for this bid packet number 4 was under budget by $499,570.20. And that wraps up those two bid packages.
Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping us informed with that.
Thank you.
Moving, did anyone have any questions or statements about that? Moving on to item number 157.17, student reinstatement. Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the Board of Education. The Michigan School Code provides for legal guidelines and a process that school districts must follow when a student who has been permanently expelled from a school district and then petitions the district for reinstatement after 150 days. Subsequently, the reinstatement committee met on September 20th, 2016. By school board policy, that committee consists of 2 school board members, one of the school administrators, a teacher from the school, and a parent from the school district who review the request, all the supporting documents, and the findings of the hearing officer regarding the original expulsion. These steps have been followed, and the committee's recommendation to the board is to reinstate the student to Marshall Upper Elementary School. We need three things from the board this evening: a motion to adopt the committee's recommendation, a resolution read into the record, and then a vote.
Thank you. At this time, I'll take a motion to adopt the committee's recommendation. Moved by Mrs. Madell,
Support.
supported by Mr. Griffin. Can you read the resolution into record now for me, please, Ms. Hines?
Yes. Whereas the Board of Education for the Wayne Westland Community Schools convened on October 17, 2013, pursuant of MCL 380.13115F, to consider the petition for school reinstatement filed on behalf of an expelled student, A1, and to consider the report and recommendation of the Reinstatement Committee previously appointed by the Board of Education pursuant to MCL 380.12115D. Whereas the Board of Education is persuaded that student A1 should be reinstated into the Wayne Westland Community Schools, subject to the following terms and conditions. Placement at Marshall Upper Elementary School. The student will conduct himself/herself at all times in a strict conformity with the district's student code of conduct. The parent and the student understand and agree that if, in the district's sole and exclusive discretion, if the student violates the student code of conduct in any way, the district will immediately suspend the student and initiate due process procedures to permanently expel the student from the district. Therefore, it is resolved that the Reinstatement Committee report and recommendation is hereby adopted by the Board of Education, and for that reasons, stating hereon, the petition for the school reinstatement is filed on behalf of student A1, is hereby granted, subject to strict compliance with the terms and conditions set forth above. Be it further resolved that a copy of the resolution will be provided to the student and parent.
Okay, at this time, we'll take a roll call vote.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Ms. Madell?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
The record shows 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 15817, Superintendent Evaluation Tool. So, as you all know, we have used the MASB tool in the past, but because of some of the new policies that have come down from Lansing, we have to just put it on record that we will be using it again, if approved again, to use it tonight. So at this time, I'll take a motion that we continue to use the MASB tool for the superintendent's evaluation.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Mr. Buckaloo, supported by Ms. Hines. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. Ms. Madell?
Yes.
And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
The record shows 5-0 vote.
Thank you. Now, this is the, what we had amended in the beginning. We're gonna do, this is 158.17.1, superintendent contract. Ms. Bolt, how do you need to say anything, or how do we go forth with this?
Well, I think it would be appropriate
Okay.
for you to take a vote on whether to accept the changes to the contract and give maybe a brief description of
Okay, I
those
just wanted to make
changes.
sure that we were going in the right direction.
Yeah.
So at this time,
Go ahead. I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll move. I'm gonna move that we adopt the amendments that are presented to us tonight for the superintendent's contract for the 16-17 school year.
okay. And do I have a second? Second. Second by Mrs. Madell. Any discussion? No discussion?
Well, I'll only say one thing, that these are minimal, these are minimal changes in order to comply with the new year timeline for evaluating superintendents.
Just a question, are we doing this for 1 year or for 5 years?
5 years.
Okay, we'll let that be reflected in the motion.
Yeah.
Am I right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and so that everyone know, at the beginning, I want to say maybe, was it March? We decided to extend the contract, and the board voted that we would go into negotiations for the superintendent's contract. And it's fair that you all know that there's no increases, and as everyone in the district has done, there's concessions, so that we are all on the same level, same page, that we're all still trying to move forward to get the district so that we all can move forward and keep the district where we're trying to be. So,
Madam President, I'll clarify that for
Thank
Mr.
you.
Buckler and the board. As it states, the district will employ the superintendent for a period of 5 school years from July 1, 2016 until June 30th, 2021. That's that's the change that's important.
yeah,
in
because we
there.
want to make sure
Just so
that the strategic plan
we're playing
continues
for-
to, there's
My
a,
intent was for 5 years, yes,
Uh-huh.
for that amendment.
because there's a strategic plan that's in place, and we want to see it come to fruition. So at this time, there's a motion on the floor. Give you the roll call vote.
Ms. Medill?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. Buckaloo?
Yes.
Ms. Hines, yes. And Ms. Walker?
Yes.
The record shows a 5-0 vote.
Thank you. Congratulations, and we appreciate all that you do, and we thank you so much for what you have sacrificed, as well as our other employees in the district. So thank you.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure to be of service. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks.
Okay. Moving on to item number 159.1. Did anyone else want to say anything? No? Okay, 159.17. Ms. Medill, your Head Start monthly report.
No problem. As required by federal law, each of you received a copy of the Head Start monthly report in your packet. And if you have any questions, just let me know. I'll direct you right over to the Head Start program, those questions. The last time I checked with them, they were fully enrolled and were looking for students because they need to maintain a waiting list so that when one student drops, another student can be put right in immediately. So, again, if you're interested in our Head Start program, give them a call.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 160.17, the Board of Education Committee reports, and we only have one, and that would be from the Finance Committee, and Mr. Griffin will be reading that.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a summary of the Finance Committee meeting held on Monday, October 3rd, 2016. The following people attended the meeting: myself, Trav Griffin, Tom Buckaloo, Dr. Weaver, Dr. Fred Weaver, Dave Kallmeyer, John Albrecht, Dr. Michelle Hamala, Jim Larson Schindler, Jeff Higgins, and Jamie Essenmaker, who was here tonight from Plant Moran, attended as guests. The following items were discussed. Jeff Higgins and Jamie Essenmaker reviewed the 2015-16 audit results with the committee. The committee was informed that the district received the Excellence in Finance Reporting Award from both ASBO and GFOA for the 17th consecutive year. The closeout of bid packets 3 and 4 were discussed. Proposed sinking fund and food service fund projects for 2016-17 were discussed. The underground storage tank at transportation was removed during the summer, and there was a discussion on the status of the district's vacant property, and that's the end of the finance report, Madam.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving on to item number 161.17, Superintendent's report. Dr. Hamala?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, President Walker. This evening, I'd like to share 3 things with the board and our public. First, I'd like to provide a brief update on our transportation services. Things have improved greatly since the start of the school year. We've adjusted many routes, including the stops themselves and the route times, and we did that with the help of our drivers. Without their hands-on support, that would have been very difficult. So I'd like to thank all of our drivers and our aides for their hard work. This improved the conditions as to the number of riders on a given bus, as well as the timeliness of our routes. And additionally, we continue to hire drivers and are nearing the number of drivers needed for every route. We still need additional drivers to cover extra runs and absences, so we are still in the hiring mode and training mode. Again, I'd like to thank our staff, but particularly our students and our parents for their patience and their feedback as we made adjustments, and we continue to do so. Transportation is an ongoing item. It always is an item of work in any given school year. So it's not something that ever settles, because every time you have a student move in or a student move out, routes and changes do occur. So, but we've come a long way, and I'd also like to thank Deputy Superintendent Jim Larson-Scheidler. He really spent hours upon hours, and I think in many cases has ridden more buses this year in this short time than probably his entire career. But without everybody rolling up their sleeves and getting involved, the outcome would not nearly have been as good. And I know we're still working, and we will continue to do so, but I think we've come a long way, and I'd like to thank all of them. Second, the third grade reading bill was signed into law by our governor. The approved bill does include a parental opt-out for the mandatory retention. And while there will be a number of required actions needed to implement the opt-out, it does make the law more palatable by continuing to empower parents in the education of their children. The retention component will not begin until this year's kindergarten students take the third grade assessment in the year 2019-2020. There are a number of other features in this bill that includes the provision of additional reading interventions. This is something that I believe Wayne Westland has been doing and doing well for a number of years, and that work will continue. We are beginning our work through John Albrecht and the instructional services team to look at how we will implement the various components of that particular piece of legislation, and we will keep you updated as well as our families. Third is an update related to the November 8th enhancement millage. The enhancement millage is a county-wide measure that, if approved by the majority of voters in Wayne County, would generate approximately $385 per pupil for each student in the county. Each school district would determine its own uses for the revenue, and that revenue can be used for operational or day-to-day purposes. Wayne Westland Community Schools intends to use the funds, if the voters do approve that millage, for continued and enhanced provision of our instructional programs, attraction and retention of staff through competitive wages, and to replace our aging bus fleet. The millage question is placed near the end of the ballot that voters will see. And that's the end of my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Amala. Moving on to item number 16217, citizen comments, non-agenda items. Do we have anyone in the audience? Okay. Moving on to item number 163.17, review of recommendations, Board of Education. Ms. Hines.
I'd like to say we had an awesome board meeting. A lot of things were accomplished today. We're doing awesome on the budget. I also like to thank the staff as well for sacrificing. I mean, you guys put a lot of time and effort into making sure the school district runs smoothly. And I'd like to congratulate all of our new employees. It really makes my heart feel warm to see that people who graduate from Wayne Westland comes back and gives to the district, and I'm really excited about that. And this is going to be a fabulous year. I pray that this millage passes, because we do need the support of the community so we can pay our teachers, so we can have better buses and have, you know, more money to educate our children. So it's very important to get out there and take care of our school district, because it affects everyone in the county.
Thank you. Mr. Bucklew.
Thank you. On Thursday, I had the pleasure of attending an informational meeting at Livonia Franklin High School to discuss the enhancement millage. And I was joined there by Superintendent Harmala, by Vice President Medellin, and by Trustee Hines. And a number of the questions that I had and that others had at that meeting were answered by the recent superintendent, Mr. Randy Lipa. I believe that there are going to be other sessions available between now and the November election. Am I correct in that?
Well, I don't have any additional dates, so if you heard of one that I didn't, you bring it forward, but I don't know of any other dates.
There are none planned then?
Not like that one was.
Okay, then I stand corrected. What about locally?
No. Now, we have lots of meetings to inform, and those are scheduled, but that was a funding forum, so it went into a lot more detail than most.
It did. Well, if you have any questions, please take the time to find the answers so that on November 8th, you can make an informed decision. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Larson Scheidler, Mr. Kalmeyer, and Ms. Rosen. Once again, we've done the outstanding job as a district in reporting our financial status. 17 years in a row, I believe, I heard you say that we've received this award. That's a fantastic thing, considering that so few districts even approach the level of reporting that we do to qualify for those awards. I think one of the awards, only 5 districts in the state earns, and we've earned it for 17 years. So congratulations to everyone involved in that process. And also congratulations to our new administrators, Mr. Eric Chambers, who is our athletic director, John Glenn, Ms. Mary Earnhardt, who is our new principal at Roosevelt McGrath, and Mr. Charlie Hallman, who is the senior executive director for special education here at the board office. And it was said earlier, it's so nice to see people who have come through the district feel enough affection for the district that they want to come back and serve as educators themselves. And I couldn't be more happy. And finally, congratulations to you, Dr. Harmala. It's a well-deserved extension. I don't know whether I was correct in congratulating you, or if I should be congratulating us.
Well, I'll take it either way, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I too am impressed with the financial reporting in this, as I always have been. You know, when you get the lowest per pupil funding of any school district in the state, 350 of them, and then we have weathered a $12 million cut in 1 year. I mean, this board had to make some right decisions. The board before me and this board here. And the administration has to make some tough decisions. And for us to come through and still survive, I think speaks a lot about this board and the administration that we have in place. Dr. Jim Larson Schidler and Dr. Kalmeyer, I can't say enough about I wish you were here. I wanted to say it early, but I don't want to hold up the meeting, so you can relay this to him. I just think Dr. Kalmeyer and his staff, I know they deal with this every day, is a tremendous, does a tremendous job, and Plant Moran wouldn't be up here saying everything's good if it wasn't, because I know them. I've had them tell me as mayor sometimes things weren't so good, and so, you know, I know they only tell you the truth, and that's why their integrity is 100%. Secondly, the bargaining units in this school district. You know, I used to represent them for 20-something years, not here, but other places. It takes a lot of guts and to make the kind of sacrifices they have to make this district survive. And if they hadn't have made those cuts, we wouldn't have survived. We'd have been in an emergency manager situation, or a little less than that, but it would have been terrible. But you know what? I admire them. They understood that we had to survive this, and now we're on the way back a little bit, and I don't know what the future is going to hold. I'm only going to be here another 2 months to the end of December. I'm still going to be in this community, but, you know, I can see the curve going up now a little bit, and I can see us on the way back to where we were when I was on this board in 1972. We've always maintained a general fund equity, but I just hope and pray this millage passes so that my successor and Tom, I know they're going to be back, will make their job a lot easier. And last, I'd like to say to you, Dr. Michelle Harmala, it was a pleasure voting for you the first time, and it's a pleasure having you here now. You really have brought a different atmosphere to our school district, but the thing I admire most about you is this, the way you deal with people. From the lowest little school child to the highest public official, and the way we've increased our public relations to show that this district has good things to offer. So come and have a home here if you can afford it, but more than that, stay here. And I've not had any public official come to me and say that they don't enjoy working with you, because they do. And that has, I think, been a godsend for this district. And
it shows the kind of person you are beyond your curriculum and all those skills, which I appreciate also. But I just appreciate having the way you deal with this community. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. That was from the heart. Ms. Madell.
It's a hard act to follow.
I know.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. And again, it's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
You've had to push a rock up a hill, and sometimes the rock looks like it's gonna come back at you some days, but you've managed to survive. And you're willing to stay with us. Good going. You rock. Mrs. Hines, nice job. This is the first time Mrs. Hines has stepped in as secretary since joining our school board, and it was kind of baptism by fire, but you've had a chance to watch a couple people do their job, and good job.
Thank you.
I'm so impressed with our website. It's so much easier to find things. There's a calendar, which I've been asking for years. I've been on board 6 years. I've been asking for a common calendar. I finally got it. So that when you look at that common calendar, you will notice all of the fall festivals that are going to be taking place in the elementary buildings, trunk or treats, things like that. But don't forget, we have Spooktacular coming up at Wayne Memorial High School. And following Spooktacular will be the marching band out on the football field performing. So you don't want to miss that, because they are great. I'd like to, again, congratulate our business department under your leadership, Mr. Larson Scheidler. Good job, as always. Set the bar high. We expect you to meet it, and you meet the challenge every single time. Congratulations to you and your staff. I got a chance this month to go and visit with our bus drivers, especially after some of the issues that we've had with the beginning of the school year. And I know some of them were here last month sitting in the seats, and so I got a chance to tell them that they rock and how much we appreciated all of their efforts. But I got a chance to go right over to them and express our congratulations to them and thank them personally for stepping up and helping out in what could have turned into a major issue, and helping everybody get on the bus, get to the right spots, and get safely to and from school. Again, they are great people, and it shows how much our employees are invested in our school district. I would like to congratulate our 3 new hires. This is the first time I've known all 3 of them and have had a personal relationship. And Eric reminded me before the meeting, thank you very much for making me feel really old, that I had him as a 6th grade student. I didn't recognize him, and again, I apologize, but you've changed just a little since 6th grade. You grew a few inches too, if I remember correctly. But congratulations, I look forward to seeing you at John Glenn. Charlie, I see you all the time, so it won't be any different, just a new title with your name. And Mary Ernett and I worked together a long time when we were both in middle school. So some of us are coming full circle. But going into the holiday season, I want to caution everybody to be careful. Be careful out there, especially if you are wearing a mask. If it is dark out when you're trick-or-treating, please be careful. Do not allow anything to happen. We want you back safe and sound. So, with that said.
Thank you. As always, by the time it gets to me, everything has already been said, so I'm not going to be redundant. I'm just going to echo what my colleagues on the board have said. But I would like to thank you all for coming out tonight and taking time out of your busy schedule to sit in on our meeting. It's greatly appreciated. And I am very proud of this district. I'm very proud of the employees. I'm proud of the families. I love being a part of this community. And I always say it all the time, no matter what happens, we're family. And families bounce back, and we work together, and we do what we need to do to make the family thrive. And I appreciate that. So with that being said, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
I mean, unless you guys just want to stay longer. So moved by Ms. Liddell and supported by Ms. Hines. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you again.